how to become the most charismatic person that you know. How to become the most charismatic person in any room. Michael McLean, brassballsvideos.com. I'm an ex-professional hockey coach, ex-amateur championship hockey coach, turned 8-figure entrepreneur, out walking on a track in Naples, shooting this broken iPhone video. You can download a copy of my brand new book below at the link, 5 Ways to Unfuck Your Life in the Next 30 Days. It's free. You can download it, you can print it, you can share it, you can comment on it, whatever you want. Link is free below my brand new book. So, I get this question a lot from my clients and my brothers and my members. They want to be more charismatic. You know, Michael, I've seen you in rooms, I've seen you at seminars, I've seen you speaking on stage, I've seen you at dinners, I've seen you at masterminds. How can I become more charismatic? How can I become the most interesting person in the room? How can I have greater influence? How can I have better persuasion? How can I become a better salesperson? How can I become more magnetic? How can I become a more charismatic person? As a husband, as a father, as an entrepreneur, I get that question all the time. So let me answer it for you. There's only one way. Whether you're an introvert like me, it's so interesting when they meet me personally, they're like, Michael, you're exactly like you are on the videos, but you're an introvert. Like, introverts recharge being by themselves. We're comfortable in our own skin. Introverts are comfortable by themselves. And most of the people that watch my videos and are members of my tribe and brotherhood, most of my friends and allies are introverts. My dad's an introvert. My grandfather was an introvert. My daughter Emery is an introvert. I'm an introvert. I'm okay being alone. I recharge by reading, and I'm comfortable in my own skin now. Walking. I'm an introvert. But I still now have learned the laws of being charismatic in social settings. So whether you're an introvert or an extrovert energizes by being around other people. My wife Krista is a perfect example. She's an extrovert. When she hasn't been out socially around other people, she needs to get out, have lunch, she needs to go to yoga, she needs to go to the gym, she needs to go to the grocery store, she needs to call a friend. She, as an extrovert, it just means that she recharges by being around other people. Very simple stuff. So it doesn't matter what label people put on you. Everybody needs to be charismatic, especially in business. When you're meeting people, when you're hiring people, when you're selling people, when you're helping people, when you're running masterminds, Zoom calls, it's all charisma. When I was recruiting hockey players, it was all about charisma. If I can't connect with the player, if I can't connect with mom and dad, that's a problem. When I was selling insurance, it was all about charisma. If I can't connect with the prospect or the client, I can't help them. So same with being a father or a husband. Most marriages lack charisma and connection, right? They don't fall out of love and divorce. People stop liking each other. They stop connecting. Couples stop dating each other. That's being charismatic. Same thing as a father. You're trying to connect, with your teenagers. They don't want to listen. I've dealt with that group my whole coaching career. You've got to find ways to connect by being more charismatic. So it's a really big deal. It makes you magnetic to other people. It makes you magnetic to your wife, your queen, your secret weapon. It makes you magnetic to your children so that you can build rapport with them. You can inspire them and help them. It makes you magnetic to your staff, to your employees. It makes you magnetic in your marketing to your prospects, your leads, your buyers, your customers, your patients. Charismatic. So in my 31 years in the business trenches and 21 as a pro and amateur hockey coach, I gotta say there's only one way to become charismatic, and it's what nobody else does. So if you nail this, if you get this right, you've left all the normies, all the mediocre, the average, the quiet desperation people behind. You'll be the most interesting person in any room. That's my guarantee. And I'm a serial introvert. And I've tested all this stuff and it works in social settings, business settings, seminar settings. You'll be the most interesting and magnetic person in the room. So let's get to it. There's 3 types of ways, and I'll build this all out for you under one theme. It only takes one thing. Here's the golden nugget that nobody will tell you. Okay? Instead of, this is a writer downer, this will transform your life. Instead of trying to be interesting, instead of trying to be interesting, be interested. Be interested. Instead of trying to be interesting, be interested in other people. I just gave you the $1 million influence, persuasion, salesmanship, influence secret of your lifetime. Instead of trying to be interesting, trying hard, speaking, trying to impress people, bragging, trying to get a word in edgewise, everybody trying, noise, distraction, me, I did this, me. Do the polar opposite of everybody else. Make yourself incredibly magnetic. Make yourself outrageously charismatic by being interested. So I'll give you an example. I had lunch a couple days ago on the beach here in Naples with one of my high-end clients. First time we've met in person, former police officer, incredible father, really fit guy, turned real estate entrepreneur. I rarely have lunch. I make time for badass champions like this guy. And, if I think that I surprised him, even him, when it was the lunch, which was 2 hours, which I thoroughly enjoyed, but literally, I think I wore him out with questions about him. And I'm talking about authentic questions. You can't fake being interested in people. You gotta love other people. You have to be curious about winning. You have to be curious about losing. You have to be curious about how people do things. You can't fake it. It has to be in your DNA. It's in my DNA. So when I have lunch with a person like this, I don't want to talk about me. And that makes me a rare bird because most people will try to be charismatic. They'll try and make a good impression, talk about themselves, talk about their family, talk about their wins. That's what everybody does. And it actually makes you the opposite of magnetic. It repels people, because what do people want more than anything? They want to be heard. They want to be listened to. In a world of noise and distraction and clutter, most people just want to be listened to and heard. Now this fits in perfectly because I'm a detective. My friend said, you would have made a hell of a cop, Michael. I would have made a hell of a cop. I would have made a hell of a Navy SEAL too. But I went down the pro hockey and amateur hockey route. But nevertheless, I am curious about winning and losing. So when I have my lunch for 2 hours, it's like Warren Buffett when he had dinner. I don't know if you ever heard that Warren Buffett story, but there was a young guy who paid, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was 200 grand or something for a charity. And he ended up, the prize, they auctioned off dinner with Warren Buffett, the greatest investor of all time. And this guy had pages and pages and pages of questions that he was going to ask Warren when they had this dinner that he had paid for. And I think they had the story goes, they had a 2-hour dinner, and when it was over, the young man had barely had any of his questions answered. Literally, Warren Buffett, who, Charlie Munger, his business partner, said, be a learning machine, be a learning machine. Well, Buffett's a learning machine. He reads 5 hours a day. He studies 5 hours a day. So when Buffett has dinner or lunch with somebody, all he wants to do is learn from you. And that's what happened with this young man. This man thought he was going to pick his brain when Buffett, the total cleaner that he is, he just literally went to town with his curiosity and just asked this young man question after question about his business, his family, his children. And he learned so much about this person. And that's that ultimate non-neediness that a badass king has. If you're one of these people where you're always trying too hard, you're needy, you're like, look at me, you're the person doing all the talking and none of the listening, that repels people, it repels money, it repels success, because you come across as this super needy person, right? The person who is interested and appears to have nothing to prove or to gain, is comfortable in their own skin and curious about you, is the person that will end up influencing, persuading, selling, serving, and making a difference. They're a learning machine. So it's so critical, and Warren Buffett is an example of that. He's never trying to be interesting. He's never standing up and saying, look at me, I'm the world's greatest billionaire investor. Buffett is interested in who he's talking to. What can I learn from this person? What can this person help me with? What I'm fascinated, natural fascination. Again, you can't fake it. So this is how I have lunch with people. This is how I have dinner with people. Whether I know them, whether they're a friend, an ally, is I don't give a shit about Michael McLean in these situations. I'm tired of talking about me. When I do these daily videos, I'm like, my 11-year-old says, are you not sick of yourself? And I'm like, yeah, I am actually sick of myself. I'm an introvert. And when I get an opportunity to have lunch or dinner or talk to somebody that's successful in any area of their life, I'm so curious to learn out how they did it. What would you do different? What would you do better? What would you do more of? Do you have any regrets? And people love to talk about themselves. So it's a win-win, right? I'm curious. I'm interested. And naturally, people are like, they love to share. And in this case, He's got more experience raising a daughter than I do. His daughter's 22. So I'm so interested because he's done such an outstanding job. Is there anything you would do more of? Is there anything you would do with sports or schooling or the arts or drama? Is there anything you would do different as a husband, as a father? Do you have anything you wouldn't do? Is there anything you'd do differently? And he just answered, he's such a great guy. He answers all my questions. And who doesn't love to talk about their daughter, right? Or their family. And, he had a failed marriage years and years ago. And we talked about what kind of an effect that had on his 6-year-old at the time. What kind of an effect did it have on his wife, on him, on his health? And we talked all through about marriage. And I really wanted to know his thoughts on this because he had more experience than I did, more success than I did. And then we talked about police officers and soldiers and military and firefighters. I mean, they're at the top of the food chain for yours relentless, right? I love farmers, I love police officers, I love our military, I love our firefighters. But I got to tell you, this guy was a cop for 15 years. 15 years before he decided to leave the force to become an entrepreneur. And I was fascinated with that story. I want to know what it was like to be a police officer. He had to draw his gun one time in an armed robbery. He told me all the story. He told me the mental battle, the physical battle, the emotional battle, the spiritual battle. We talked about the greatest country in the world, America. We talked about Canada. We talked about freedom. We talked a little bit about politics, not much. We talked about nutrition. We talked about health. And we talked about marketing and sales. I shared what's working for me recently. And I was, and he's a giving guy. But being interested, not trying to be interesting. Most people now are trying to get there by pushing a boulder up a hill. They're needy and they're the opposite. It repels people. It's like the guy, he's chasing the girl and it's the law of the jungle. Anything you chase, what happens in the law of the jungle? So in the jungle, what's the law of the jungle? Anything you chase, what? Anything you pursue, what? Flees, runs, okay? So if it's a woman, if it's a employee, a prospect, a buyer, it doesn't matter if it's your teenager. When you invite with zero neediness, when you ask people questions, when you're genuinely curious, when you're genuinely interested, when you're a natural detective, tell me more about that. I want to know what it was like to be a cop. I'm fascinated. What was it like to play at Alabama? This guy played at Bama back in the day for 2 years. What was it like to play in that state at that school for the Crimson Tide? I want to know. I don't want to talk about myself. I know myself. I'm bored to death of me. I want to know about him. I want to know about her. I want to know about my multi-millionaire neighbor. And that's how an introvert like me becomes charismatic. I'm magnetic to money. I'm magnetic to people. I'm magnetic to success. And I'm charismatic even though I'm a very introverted person, because I'm always focused on being interested and not being interesting. I don't care. When I talk to a prospect in the insurance business, it was just question after question after question, building rapport. Tell me about your family. Tell me about your whatever. I share a little bit. They share a little bit. Back and forth. We don't even talk about insurance. Next thing you know, Michael, we want you to handle it all. That's the rapport you build, sharing back and forth. Okay, same in the barbershop business, the hockey business. I'd sit at the recruiting table with, there's 30 teams after this particular player, and I go in and I don't talk about hockey at all. I don't talk about how much he's going to play. I don't talk about ice time. I talk about my principles, my values, how I talk about my family, my life, my child. I talk about life skills. I talk about how I can help him become a better person, how I can teach him marketing, money. Boom. I close those parents and that athlete instantly because I'm so different than the other recruiters, the other coaches. I'm showing up interested in their child. I'm showing up interested. I'm not showing up needy. I'm not pursuing. So the law of the jungle works for me in reverse. Because I don't pursue. I don't chase. I don't put on the knee pads. I do the opposite. I invite. I ask questions. I'm curious. I'm interested. And that's how you become absolutely magnetic to anything you want in your world. Time to zip the lip. In today's world, everybody's screaming and shouting, myself included. Screaming and shouting, me too, me too, me too, look at me, from football players to college students to millenniums to boomers to grandma, look at me. You need to be that person now who zips the lip. You got 2 ears, you got 1 mouth. Start using these twice as much as you use that mouth, and start listening to understand. By the way, there's 2 types of listening. Okay, you want to influence, you want to be charismatic, you want to be magnetic. You have to listen to hear, and you have to listen to truly understand. When I'm talking to one of my clients, or I'm talking to my daughter, or I'm talking to my queen, I'm listening to understand. And usually I'm going to ask another question about that. Tell me more about that. Like, that's the secret, right? Tell me more about being a police officer. Tell me more about playing for the Crimson Tide in the 70s. Tell me more. Instead of listening to what? Like everybody else does, listening to reply. Yeah, that's great, but I did this. See, that's trying to be interesting. That's trying to impress. That's needy. That's pursuing. That's chasing. And the law of the jungle is whatever's chased, whatever's pursued, whatever appears needy, whatever you're trying to squeeze, it runs away. You repel it. You repel money. You repel success. You repel people. Do the exact opposite. Use 2 ears to 1 mouth. Listen to hear. Listen to understand. Be genuinely curious. Be genuinely a detective. Be genuinely a learning machine. And literally become the most magnetic and the most charismatic person in any room with that secret I just gave you. Be interested, not try to be interesting. Be the most interested person you know. You'll be the most magnetic person in any room. You can download a free copy of my book below, 5 Ways to Unfuck Your Life in the Next 30 Days. Candidly, who doesn't need to unfuck their life? Nobody's coming to save us. At some point, from time to time, we all need to unfuck our life. The book below, you can download it, you can print it. I'd love to hear what you think about it in the comments below. You can share it with friends, adult children, your queen, your best friend's secret weapon. And if it's helpful, let me know. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Until then, be the most magnetic, the most charismatic person in any room by being interested. Not interesting, being interested, be a detective, Be a genuinely curious person, ask questions, and above all else, listen to hear and listen to understand. 2 words that changed my life, 2 words that can change your life. Be relentless.